look quite as nice myself. So I'd rather have this so it stays out from the face with a pivot out here, and then it controls it right where it is. So just unlink that now. And what you really need now is this object needs to be parented to something. It needs to be parented back into the rig as well. And it really probably should be parented up to the jawbone. The problem here is, again, as soon as I do that, this object, or even as it's sitting in world space, really doesn't have a parent that's aligned to it. So its orientation is not aligned to its parent, and you want that with rotations all the time, orientations of objects, so that you get a true zero value, and you're not already forcing an object into a gimbal situation, or partway into a gimbal situation as you start working with it. So we're going to group this. And I say group, I mean my M group option. So we're going to parent it up to a node as well. So I'm going to say group each object, and let's just take the size down a little bit and put it in 1. Now something you'll notice that my M group tool does is it parents the node to it, aligns the node to it, the helper to it, and then parents the one you had selected to it, but it also keeps the hierarchy intact, so it actually now is still parented up to the bone. The ungroup will actually remove it out of the hierarchy and leave the hierarchy intact, which is very handy. So now what we can do is we can go about connecting this to this with wire parameters so that it actually is controlled by it directly. Now the way we're going to deal with that is, first off, we're going to go and grab my pen rigging utils script that I use all the time for setting 0 positions and 0 rotations. It's very much the same as using the freeze transform tool that's built in. I tend to use this one more because it's one that I've written and has more controls for handling, adding certain controllers and dealing with their naming conventions, and renaming list controllers, and deleting and making active list controllers by name. So it's a handy tool to get used to using. So what I'm going to do is just say 0 position, 0 rotation, and what it's done is it's gone and set up list controllers now on the actual objects. So let me just go into the track view. I have a track view set up here that doesn't have the curve editor showing. It's just the side with all the controllers and all the tracks, so that I can just manage my my controllers and whatnot. So now you can see that it's actually set up the 0 and animation tracks. 0 being basically the base value, the starting value, and then the zeroed out tracks. Now what I'm going to do is, with this one here, I'm going to take this one here and just change the controller types that are in here. Assign controller, and I want to make it a Bezier position, and this will just save some time in setting things up. And assign controller in the rotation and make it TCB rotation right at the bottom. What you can do now is you can actually connect these. So I'm going to go and connect the Bezier position to the position, the animation position. Now I can't choose this track, and I have to have that track because the Bezier position that I'm using is actually an XYZ value. I can't just pick X, Y, or Z. But since I can't pick this in the wire parameter, you just pick X anyways, or Y or Z. And then here's that showing up. You can now just go back one and choose the parent track of it, and that holds the full XYZ value. So now when I connect it, I've connected it directly to all X, Y, and Z. It just saves on having multiple controllers handling it all. So now it's now it all functions as you'd sort of expect. So now what you can do is do the same thing with the rotation of it. I'll just leave this open. TCB, and there's the animation on the rotation, but instead of picking X, Y, or Z, you pick the parent track, and that again is a quaternion value. So now when we rotate it, it rotates in its spot as well. So believe it or not, the actual parent track of an XYZ and Euler controller at max is actually returning a quaternion value, and not the Euler XYZ value. So that confuses some people when they get to that stage and can't understand why it's not returning that XYZ value. To get at the Eulers individually, or sorry, to get at the Euler values, you have to get at them individually. It's the only way to do it.